Hi everyone, and welcome to the Fake Love and Flying Monkeys podcast. My name's Nova Gibson and I am your host. My area of expertise is in supporting victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse and other toxic relationships. I'm the principal counsellor at Brighter Outlook Narcissistic Abuse Counselling Service, and I'm also the author of Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about everything from the initial pink cloud you find yourself on at the start through to the horrific discard and the powerful trauma bond that keeps you hooked. So take your imaginary seat on the roller coaster that is narcissistic abuse, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. Today I have a very special guest for you, and her name is Vanessa Reiser. I am so excited to have Vanessa here. Vanessa is a licensed clinical social worker in New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts. Hope I'm saying that right for all you guys in the US, and Florida. She is a psychotherapist and the founder of Tell a Therapist, LLC, as well as the founder of the non-profit Tell a Therapist, Incorporated. Now, Vanessa became most recognized out there when she ran across, let me get exactly how long you ran for, Vanessa. She's a long distance runner, a two-time Ironman, and she is best known for, this is what I was looking for running the state of New York, the entire state, 285 miles in 11 days. But this is the thing that makes it even more amazing. She ran that distance in a wedding dress, and she ran that distance in a wedding dress to raise awareness for narcissistic abuse, which she now specializes in her practice. Welcome, Vanessa. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Now, Vanessa, please tell us your story. Like, you have been through this, and I understand that's why you chose to specialize it, and you raised awareness and, of course, lots and lots of money, I would imagine, to help victims of narcissistic abuse in that marathon effort, which I believe you've been doing every year since the initial one. Please tell us your story.
Yeah, so I went through a toxic relationship, and at the end of that relationship, and it wasn't the first time this has happened to me. In hindsight, there were others that I had dated that were particularly pathological, but I realized that I didn't really understand what this was, even as a clinician. So I wanted to raise awareness. I wanted to shine a light on what this was and what the characteristics were, and it was very important to me. I went to school at the University of Southern California, which is one of the top universities in the US, and I studied macro issues, so social policy, and so I kind of wear the hat of not just the clinician on a micro level, but I also like to raise awareness on a macro level for some of society's issues. And so this seemed like a really good fit for me. And I thought, why don't I run in the wedding dress so I can really kind of make a statement and get people to pay attention to what is an insidious form of domestic violence that sort of happens silently across the world, in different courtrooms, in different family dynamics, in different cults. And so that was my goal. And yes, we did subsequently run across the state of New Jersey, which was 60 miles, the state of Connecticut, which is about 55 miles. And then we did Massachusetts this year, I think, which was approximately 50 miles. So New York being the longest at 285 miles, that was the first one. But we've been trying to keep it going so that people see that we're still here And even though I'm tired, we're still managing to keep the momentum is still there, until it isn't. But for now, we're still trying to do this important work.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Look, I get tired running to the bathroom and back, Vanessa. And you did this, to raise awareness for victims, and you did. What year was your first marathon run to raise awareness about narcissistic abuse?
That was 2021. We did get a ton of press. I was so blessed to have a PR company that was donating their time to my charity, which was the run.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for Gretchen Carlson to put me on the People magazine article. She has actually written a blurb for my book, so she and I have maintained a relationship. She very famously went up against Fox 5 and Roger Ailes and continues to do a large amount of work in developing legislation that protects people from NDAs. So she's very much about lifting, I think the name of her nonprofit, or the one that she's associated with, is Lift Our Voices. So she's very passionate about not quelling and quieting victims of abuse. And so
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to have her as, a colleague and somebody that supported me. But it did get a ton of press, and I was really happy because it seems to be something that people suffer with in silence, and so they don't have a voice. And I felt I needed to be that voice because I'm not co-parenting with a narcissist.
Yeah.
My son's father is a very healthy human being, and the people who have to co-parent with them have a really hard time because the narcissist will exploit your children and use your children to harm you and use the judicial system. So they really have a hard time expressing what's going on. The court systems do not understand. They don't care. And so I just felt it was important to kind of throw myself into this important work.
Yeah, well, that's how I heard of you, Vanessa. So, I'm here in Oz, I'm here in Australia, and I remember hearing and reading about your run, back then when you initially, when you did your first one. So obviously you did what you set out to do. You created global awareness, and just incredible. But Vanessa, tell us a little bit. I want to hear about your book, absolutely. But first, before we hear all about your amazing book, and guys, Vanessa's book is due out in October, so pre-order now. Get your copy early, but we're going to talk about that very, very shortly. But Vanessa, can you tell us a little bit about your abuse and what that was like for you, and when you had your light bulb moment? Because as you said, you were an academic. You had qualifications in this area, and as we know, you don't learn about this stuff at uni. They do not teach you about narcissistic abuse. You hear about Freudian's theories and all the other theories that really take too much into your practice, but you don't hear about this stuff. So tell us a little bit about your abuse, your trauma, and your journey.
So I was in a relationship, and I knew something was off. I couldn't quite figure it out, and my clinical brain was trying to discover, what is this? What were some of the characteristics? I was seeing some of the more manic characteristics, not so much any sorrow or depression per se, but there was this buzzing about like a neon, and it felt like it was this constant go, go, go. It was exhausting. It was confusing. It was a lot of energy sucking. And I just eventually tired of the circular conversations and the insatiable need for sex and stuff like that. So I fled, and it, turned into a ton of post-separation abuse, even though I was not married to this person. And then, just managed to kind of crawl my way out of a very serious trauma bond. So there was this addiction to, the fix. When you go through the cycle of abuse, of the love bombing, devalue, discard, and then it comes around again and it looks like the makeup session, tension building, fallout, makeup session, tension building, fallout. And so at the end of this swirling about, ups and downs, roller coaster ride, I found myself with a pretty healthy drug addiction. That drug addiction was the drug of dopamine that I was getting from the fix of it all, right? So this person making it okay again developed into quite the addiction. I was very, very distraught. People did not understand. People around me kind of left me there. A lot of people I thought were my friends were not. And that was a compounded trauma. I often refer to the initial discard, or the final discard, I should say, as like the earthquake. Yeah. And then there's these aftershocks or tremors that happen where you sort of shed other people, friends, colleagues.
Yeah, I love that analogy of the tremors. That really gives you a vivid kind of image in your mind of what happens when you're slowly getting isolated and your circle's getting smaller and smaller because of the narcissist smear campaigns, etc.
Right. The smear campaign was pretty intense. I'm sort of like this tough person, so it seemed like it would be believable. Like it seems like I would be, this alpha type A kind of chick. So, it's not, I don't sort of look like a victim or something like this.
Yeah.
And so I was very nervous about the optics, and I was actually confused myself. I thought I'm the narcissist because I was being rather well mirrored. So we had become so codependent and enmeshed that I couldn't sort of find who I was for a while. But I was able to lean into my authenticity. I was able to find that girl again and remember that she wasn't a liar. And that's what I hung my hat on, because I knew I wasn't a liar. And that was the only thing I really knew originally. And that was enough to carry me. I just kept telling myself, you know yourself, you're not a liar. And that didn't seem to be in line with narcissism, right? So all narcissists are lying. They're practically delusional. Yeah. And so that helped me get out of it. And then I had to kind of find my way with my practice, getting back into my home, finding who my real tribe were. But it was really, really, really hard for about 3 months. I was really waving the white flag.
Yeah. And how did you manage to go no contact with this person, or how long did that take for you to kind of get out of the environment completely that was making you sick, the drug, the narcissist?
I think it took a little bit of time, but I started to rather quickly put the pieces together in terms of what this was. And quite honestly, when I figured it out, it was on TikTok. Yeah. I was told by his ex that he was a narcissist, but it wasn't until I actually went on TikTok and I actually could understand. I thought it was like something where somebody was like selfish or they had no empathy, but I didn't understand all of the characteristics, and everything was there. So that's when it clicked, and I thought, okay, this is like way more of a hazard. It seems like I really dodged a bullet here.
Yeah, that was your light bulb moment. So for everyone listening today, Vanessa is so articulate. She's got a master's in social work. She's a strong, beautiful, intelligent, incredibly intelligent, independent woman, and this happened to her. So what that means is there is no shame here, and that narcissistic abuse, you can be the victim no matter who you are. And as Vanessa said, I consider myself to be a strong person. Vanessa doesn't look like what society tends to think a domestic violence victim looks like. And this is what we need to educate people about. domestic violence victims, narcissistic abuse victims do not all fit into one box, do they, Vanessa? And the typical victim is not someone who is, looking weak and typically, wounded. They can look like you, a beautiful, strong, independent, intelligent woman. It can happen to anyone, can't it?
Yeah, I know the stolen youth cult in New York has this wonderful victim named Felicia, who was a doctor. And I always refer to that case where she was reeled into this cult led by this awful person named Larry, who is now in prison, thank God. But that story, and watching that story, I don't know if it was on Netflix, or I'm kind of becoming familiar with what happened and what she endured, is such an interesting way to understand that this can happen to anyone. And also, quite honestly, I don't believe the narcissist has a type. I don't think that, they have anything like they're looking for per se, like empathy, or, could stalk you out if they see that you may have had a recent breakup. So they'll sense some vulnerabilities and things like that. But by and large, they're just casting out lines, and they'll just reel you in if you don't have the boundaries in place and if you don't know. And so I often, tell my clients that, if you don't know what you don't know, what you don't know, it's not your fault. There's no blaming. You can't blame somebody if, they get eaten by a lion. You shouldn't have been in, like, that's not how it works,
Exactly.
This is not a victim blame. There's no type. The narcissist's only prerequisite is, does it have a pulse? Is it going to do what I want it to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, you become addicted, you become, enmeshed with this person. So you can't get out before you know who they are. So you don't see these abusive traits. If they showed you right at the beginning, you'd never stay. So they've got to hook you in by being this amazing person. So why would any normal person think that someone who was being so kind and lovely to them was lying? It's just not something that we do when you probably will have those very firm boundaries now, but
now, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're being too nice to me. I'm going to keep an eye on that one. But for the most part, we don't think that someone is lying about who and what they are when we first meet them. And that is why anyone can become a victim, because, as you know, your boundaries are worn away so insidiously that you don't see the jump from you being that confident person to where you end up. That there's no clear map. It just happens under the level of awareness.
Yeah. If you don't see it early on, it's too late by the time you do, because then you've developed the trauma bond. You're already addicted. It's already there. And that's really hard for a variety of different reasons. One of the biggest ones being not just the trauma bond, but then I would say, in addition, the post-separation abuse is far worse than the abuse in the relationship. So once you give the narcissist that injury of getting away from them, they will punish you for the rest of your natural life. There is no way around it. They will constantly torment you. Will it sort of subside over time? Possibly, to some extent, because they'll have someone else to toy with. They have found a new supply that is going to feed them all of the things, but they're always circling. I think of it like a prison yard beacon light that's coming around. So, you might be able to duck away from the light as it turns to kind of find you. But every now and again, you're going to get nabbed and you're on deck, and here comes, whatever it is. And they do this for sport. The problem is that we are well traumatized by this point, and it is extremely triggering. It's extremely intimidating. It's extremely frustrating, particularly if this person has ruined your career, you're taking your children.
They will, won't they? They will destroy your career. If they can do that, they will. The levels they will stoop to are just mind blowing. Just to punish you for not wanting them anymore or being able to live without them, even though they discarded you.
Yeah, the whole idea for them is about control. So once they lose control over you, they consider that to be an injury of sorts to them. And they're always tallying. They are the ever tallying creature. So they consider that a loss, and that means they have to win. They will do anything to win. To win, a narcissist will cut their own arm off. They will bankrupt their own businesses. They will harm their own children. They will fly an airplane straight into a wall and kill your whole family just so they can feel like they won. To them, that's a win. A win for them even could be just martyrdom. Like, a win for them, it could be suicide. I win because you look what you made me do. They are the ever tallying creature. There's a tally, there's a roster, there's an Excel sheet in their mind, and they're digitizing who's winning, losing, calculating all the wins and losses. That's how their brain works, and you can't win because they will always upstage you, one-up you until the end of time.
I'm so glad you said that because, I often hear from my lovely clients that they think if they can just give the narcissist what they want in mediation, when the narcissist is putting them through hell in post-separation abuse. And, as we know, mediation basically, well, it is in Australia, just a tick and flick. When there's a narcissist involved, it's just a road to actually getting to court, because it's not always about the money. They will spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers to get $1 extra than you in the family court, because, as you said, it's about winning. And that's just one thing that sprung to mind where people think, we'll just give them the best deal in mediation. No, it's because they need to win, and that's not winning to them.
Yeah. And I think, to what end, right? I mean, sometimes when you win, you lose. It's like, okay, congratulations, you won. You bankrupted your entire company. Congratulations, you didn't want to pay your child support, so you decided you were going to quit your own job, and now you have no teeth. You're riding a bicycle to work because you have no job. They will literally ruin their own lives just so they can feel like they're winning in terms of not avoiding child support. We see this in so many different ways. They will do anything to win. And what does that tell you about them? Really, they're projecting. They're telling you that they feel so insecure and they feel like such losers that they have to overcompensate. It's sort of highlighting the vacancy and the void that they have within themselves that they can't lose.
Yeah. They will even discard their own children, won't they, Vanessa? If one child, doesn't want to do exactly what they want to do a different university course, they will discard their own children. And that's also about winning, isn't it? No one is immune to being punished and discarded forever by the narcissist.
Particularly if the child gets to be a teen, anytime you develop autonomy or agency, this is also an injury to them, because now you are out of my control. This is a loss. You are an adversary now. I consider this to be a problem because you're out of my clutches and you're not going to do what I tell you to do. We see this a lot when children are going to university and they are moving away from the narcissistic parent. The narcissistic parent will oftentimes groom them to the extent that they don't even want them to go to university. This is an insult. Like, how dare you? Like, they want minions. They want these cult followers to be with blinders on, following, doing whatever they want them to do. And once you have autonomy and agency, this is an injury for the narcissist.
Yeah, it becomes particularly hard for the child of a narcissist, doesn't it, when they reach those teenage years, because that's the developmental time in their age when the parent is supposed to take a back seat. They the most important person in a child's life when they become a teenager is their their peers, and that's normal. But a narcissistic parent will be, they will be mad. They will feel betrayed, and they will actually, as you said, sabotage their own children's success in life. You've got to make them look good, but there's that arbitrary line there where you can't be better than them. And it's just so sad.
Yeah, we see that a lot. For some reason, they do really well with small children, and even the narcissist does well with dogs because, if they can kind of get the dog to do what they want, they're rather excited by this. But once you see the creature has agency or autonomy, and I often tell my clients that one of the things that you can do to make dangerous people exit your life is to flex the word no, or have boundaries, or have hobbies, have interests, have friends, have, a full life, because they sort of organically will slither away from that. They don't want anything to do with that. They want you to fall in line, and if you don't, they'll move on to someone else.
Yeah, and if you are completely trauma bonded with them, they will seek to destroy those passions that you have. Everything they loved about you in the beginning, everything that made you happy, they will seek to destroy those very qualities. So that's why it's so important to keep that agency and that autonomy going. Yeah. So just quickly, Vanessa, it's so common for the abuser to throw their new target in your face, once again, to punish you, to really hurt you, and that they've conditioned you to think that everything was your fault. So victims often think that what if they change for the next person? What if that person gets the nice side of him? Because, if everything was my fault in the relationship and I feel messed up, what if that person's not as messed up as I am? Did that happen to you? And if so, how did you feel at the time compared to how you feel now?
Well, the narcissist does sort of parade their new supply around because they are very much interested in this punishment and vindication and all of this. So they love to do that. And it's very common. I think, it is a pathological disorder. So this isn't always the case with people who are, let's say, narcissistic, but somebody who has an actual personality disorder, and is, even if you're somewhat malignant, you will see that pathology doesn't change. That's sort of the problem with this disorder, is that there's no changing it. So it's very much a copy and paste scenario. So whatever you experienced in the relationship, it's happening again. It's the exact same thing on repeat. It doesn't change. Yeah. There are some variables where you could see maybe some movement, obviously, with anything. But by and large, this is just a copy and paste. There's nothing that's going to shift too much, because that's the whole point of this disorder. It's absolutely pathological. It just repeats itself. They don't move away from the rigidity. They don't have a ton of neuroplasticity. Things are not going to be changing too much. And that's really the problem, because if they could, then we would probably work with them and stay with them, because we fall for them. The one thing we want to know when we leave the relationship is, can they change? Please, can they change? Well, that's a hard no. And that's the problem, is that they can't. So with that in mind, understand it's going to do it. The same thing is going to happen over and over again.
Exactly. And looking at what's your idea of change? We believe they should change because, we've seen that evil, sadistic side of them. They don't think there's anything wrong with who they are. This is just what they do, the problems with you. So why would they change?
They have no desire to change. They consider your empathy to be vulnerability, loser. Weak. That's right. So they have no interest in joining into this. The problem is, fundamentally, they are wrong. And here's why, period. human beings as a species have to have empathy to survive as a species, because what happens when the baby is born? The baby cries. The caregiver says innately, like the monkey caregiver innately says, I have to care for this baby. I have to do something. Something is wrong. Why is this baby crying? This is a natural experience. This is just the way the species is. Yeah. So when that occurs, if you didn't have empathy, the baby would just cry and expire, and we would just carry on. But that's not how we continue to exist. And so this idea that empathy is a problem is completely wrong. It is a disordered and corrupt concept. It doesn't work, or we don't survive. So I just, this idea that we live in a capitalistic society, or some of us, and that we need to be more selfish and things like that. It just doesn't work. It seems to be trending in that direction, which is very scary, because what does that mean to the species? Yeah. But no, it's a corrupt way of thinking, and we need to do more to cultivate empathy and kindness, and some of the things we were brought up on, like in America with Sesame Street. And so we need to get more.
No, here in Australia too, Vanessa. So I was a Sesame Street kid.
We need to kind of, we need to start cultivating that, or we are going to have a problem. We're seeing a lot of really dark things in political arenas. And if we don't pivot away from this, it isn't trending in a good direction.
Yeah, it's scary. So I'll never forget reading about this experiment that a psychologist, I can't remember his name, conducted many years ago with monkeys, and I think the mother had died, and there was two babies, and the psychologist wanted to know if the baby who was starving would gravitate towards food or something that was similar to the mother in, some fur that was warm and comforting. And this baby had not been fed yet, and it gravitated towards the fur that was that made it feel warm and comfortable with its mother, rather than what we would think would be the first survival instinct would be to go to the food. And that has always just sat with me, because what that proves is that this tiny newborn baby, the first thing it wanted was, love and affection and, the feeling of being with someone else. And that should be innate. Narcissists do not possess that, do they?
No, and that's what's so scary, like on a macro lens, as I mentioned, this idea of, me being a therapist and dealing with the one-on-one micro experience in terms of my therapy practice. Yes, I love that. But this sort of overarching theme societally of what this could mean if we don't start to change our behaviors and become more loving and thinking about this. And it feels like it's very scary. Yeah. And I think we are becoming the worst versions of ourselves in terms of societally that we've ever been. I don't know if social media, I'm sure social media plays a big role in it. But we need to start cultivating empathy. Dr. Ramani talks about this. You have to kind of not become, as much of a dirty bastard as the ones that have harmed us, because this is not going to help anybody. And yet it's hard, because you can't be neutral on a moving train. So if somebody's victimizing you, you have to sometimes fight fire with fire, or you'll be, destroyed. So it's a little bit of a dance that we're doing right now. I think on a micro scale, sometimes we have to fight back, but on a macro scale, we need to have really large conversations about who we put into positions of power, and are they themselves disordered, and what's that going to mean? Because we need to cultivate this on a macro scale a lot better. We need to be kinder just collectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Vanessa, tell us about your book. So excited to read it. I can't wait.
So I wrote a book, and it was picked up by Hachette. So you can find it at Hachette's website if you look for Vanessa Reiser. It is called Narcissistic Abuse, A Therapist's Guide to Identifying, Escaping, and Healing from Toxic and Manipulative People. It comes out October 29th. It aims to fuse the concepts of narcissistic abuse and cult abuse, because you're either in a cult of one, a cult of few, or a cult of many. And they are all cults are led by narcissists, sociopaths, or psychopaths. So this idea of mind control being the overarching theme when you're in a relationship like this, when you're being narcissistically abused, is the same in a cult. And we don't really feel like we're in a cult. It's like, well, I'm not in a cult. But if you read the book, you will see the parallels that I draw between. They are absolutely identical. There's really no difference. I mean, there are obviously differences between the narcissistic parent, the narcissistic cult leader, the intimate partner relationship, but they're very nuanced. By and large, this is the same exact experience. The cover of a book does have peacock feathers on it, because the peacock is, sort of this flamboyant, gorgeous creature, but then they're actually rather violent. So that was why the peacock feathers are on there. But I'm super proud of it. I worked so hard on it. My clients have taught me so much in terms of me gleaning information, taking notes, and managing all that I studied. So I'm super proud of that work that I've done on that book.
Guys, please get your pre-orders in for Vanessa's book coming out in October. And I can't wait to get my hands on it. Okay, look, Vanessa, I just wanted to thank you so much for telling us about your journey, because there is no one size fits all. And as you and I know, therapists can be sucked in to this cult, as you so aptly describe it, because it is a cult in your book. There is no one size fits all. Anyone can become a victim, and I just wanted to thank you so much. Was there anything any last thoughts that you wanted to give to everyone who's listening to this episode before we say goodbye?
Thank you so much. And thank you for your hard work on your book. And thank you for giving me this, platform today. And thank you for being, an ally and somebody who, holds space for others. It's so important, the work you're doing. And so I just have a ton of gratitude to all the people that I'm fortunate enough to bump elbows with in this space, because it's very safe. It feels like, you get it. And that must mean so much to your clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And ditto, right back at you. All right, Vanessa. Once again, thank you so much. Good luck with your book. I know it will be a bestseller, and we will talk soon.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of yet another Fake Love and Flying Monkeys episode. I hope you found the information that Vanessa was able to provide in this episode and her amazing insights as valuable as I did. She is such an inspirational lady. Who can say they've run 285 miles across the country to bring awareness to something they're so passionate about. So thank you so much, Vanessa. And don't forget, guys, if you'd like to pre-order her book, it's available to order right now. Her book is called Narcissistic Abuse, a therapist's guide to identifying, escaping, and healing from toxic and manipulative people. And don't forget also about our current competition that's going. All you have to do is to rate and review this podcast, share it on your timeline, and tag a friend and tag myself, of course, so I can put you in the running. Now, I can't wait to be able to announce the winner, which I will do on the 22nd of September, Brisbane time, 5 p.m. Now, if the winner is wanting an audiobook or an ebook or a Kindle, then that is so easy, and that is what they shall have. So yes, guys, don't forget to put yourself in the running by following those easy steps which are laid out in the description. And of course, don't forget to get your copy of my book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. And if you'd like to have a one-on-one therapy, counseling session with myself, no matter where you are in the world, please just see my website link in the description. And I would love to be able to support you in your healing journey. On that note, it's bye from me for now. Until tomorrow's episode, remember, you are worthy of so much love, and you are certainly worthy of a whole lot more than a lifetime of fake love and flying monkeys.